What's up guys, Lifting here. In this video I'm going to show you the charged dash character that has since ripped since my last video, but in this video I'm going to show you what it did and how it performed against some of the endgame content in the game, such as, you know, high tier maps and also the Guardians. I also did try Shaper, but I failed. I didn't have the DPS to take the Shaper down, unfortunately. But all of the Guardians have died, and they were done deathless except for the Minotaur, where I had an unfortunate death. And in the background here you're seeing the various gameplay for that. I've condensed some of it because otherwise it takes too long. Each Guardian fight took around 3 to 4 minutes to complete, so that's not too bad, but it's not exactly super impressive either. I mean, compared to the old lead sprinkler where you could take them down in 30 seconds, it's not particularly good, but compared to like an average or a normal type of build that doesn't specifically spec into boss fighting, it's pretty okay, it's pretty decent. And the cool thing was that it felt really safe to do, even despite the low health pool of the build. It only had 5,000 around that time, but because of the very high evasion and the high dodge chains, dodge I think was 46, no 40, and then 46 for spell dodge, and then I had this enchant on my, I think it's my boots that gives me extra dodge if I haven't been hit recently or something like that. So it took it a little further, it added 5+ to that. So it felt pretty good, and a lot of the phases, or a lot of the extra mechanics that the Guardians had, such as the Hydra with the flying balls everywhere, or the ad phases from the Chimera and such. A lot of the time you really didn't get hit by all this stuff, and because of the high movement speed, then it was super easy to evade a lot of the damage in the fights. I think even though the Hydra is probably the hardest of the fights, in my opinion, Minotaur was probably in this case, the hardest, just because you are crammed in a little more, and there is a lot of stuff going on when he starts to drop a lot of rocks and so forth. But it felt pretty good. I don't feel well. I don't feel like any of the Guardians were really that much of an issue. But I have made some changes to the build. I have, instead of using a Queen of the Forest now, I'm using a Carcass Jack. And I use a Carcass Jack because it gives me more damage and it gives me more area of effect, which is what I kind of felt that was needed. Even though the skill itself, I feel like should have a little more base AoE, because right now I'm using increased area of effect, skill gem when I'm mapping. I have the entire Templar wheel, and I have Carcass Jack. And it still feels like it could benefit from a little more area of effects. But anyway, so I've added in Carcass Jack for the extra damage, extra AoE, and the extra AoE is also nice for the Herald of Ice, that it scales to the area of effect of that. And it just feels better with that. It also has a decently high evasion rating, around 1,000 or 900. So it can work. This of course means that I have much less movement speed. It's still fast, but much less. But in the end that was for the better, because my movement speed was simply too high for my charged dash attacks to keep up with. I would only get around, I can't remember it, I looked at this earlier, but I think it was around 3 to 4 attacks, 3 I think. But when I use a Carcass Jack and I reduce my movement speed, I get up to 7 or 8 attacks per charge. So it's much better, it's much higher damage, and yeah, it overall just feels much better. And I've also made a few adjustments to the skill gems. For instance, I have taken Ice Bite out and I've added in Innervate instead. And the reason for that is that this gives me 2 or actually 3 blue sockets in my armor. But the important is the 1 extra blue socket that I get, because with that I can then add in Elemental Focus for a huge damage boost for bosses. And I can just generate my frenzy charges via Blood Rage, which also gives me some attack speed. At the current time I would like the build to have been like 1 or 2 levels higher, because that would have given me 2 points for life regen, so I could fully sustain the blood rage. But yeah, I don't have that right now. But if you got that, that would feel really good. And then of course Innovate with its change to shock and flat added lightning is nice when you're just mapping. But we are taking it out for elemental focus when going up against bosses. So looking back at this entire experience playing with Charge Dash, what I think about the skill, I think it's a decent skill. It's not a tier 1 skill by itself. It's fun, and some people are really gonna enjoy the gameplay style of the skill, but I think most people are just gonna find it a little too high maintenance to really enjoy over longer durations of gameplay. Also, it's not exactly a great skill to use in hardcore, because by the nature of the skill, you are charging into stuff, and you don't always have the time, or for the most part, you don't have the time to see what you're actually charging into. And this makes for some very, very dangerous situations every now and then. I actually felt the character here itself felt safe for a very long time. It felt sketchy while leveling it, but once you got the evasion up and running and all that stuff, including the dodge, it started to feel pretty good. But then when you get to high maps, like red maps, and you start to roll it with dangerous map mods, then it starts to feel sketchy again. And I wouldn't recommend you play this in hardcore, or if you do, play it with a different setup, something with much more life and some more reliable damage mitigation. In softcore, go for it, then it's completely fine. It's not a dangerous build to play per se, but it's not a tanky build either. And a lot of people ask, does it feel clunky to play? And the answer is yes, it does feel clunky to play. But as I said, some people are gonna enjoy that. Some people are gonna have fun with it despite that, because it's also the very fast type of clunky gameplay. Me personally, I don't really know. It's not a skill that I'm particularly looking forward to playing with again. I will be trying out some other stuff with it at some point. But the skill itself, it's not... I feel that they could have done something more interesting with Charge Dash, having it like zigzag back and forth, or in different patterns or something like that. I'm not super impressed with like the gameplay style of it. And now that we're talking about other setups, I would potentially like to try a Charge Dash, charge while, or cast while channeling Blade Fall something, or some kind of physical spell to go with cast while channeling and using this. Or you could do it with elemental and scale elemental attacks and have elemental spells. This could make up for a pretty potent combo, and the nice thing about using cast while channeling would be that if you only rely on the spell to do the killing, or for the most part, you don't have to worry too much about the attacks that you're getting in. And that means that you can purely focus on just getting good movement speed so that the charge is faster, the animation is faster. But don't worry about not getting enough attacks in per charge. You could also do something very simple and just do Inquisitor, pure crit elemental version. It would be slower than something like this, but it probably would deal more damage, and you would be allowed to use some kind of other type of defense to scale the build. So overall, probably a little safer and a little better against something like bosses, but slower in maps. And the final thing I thought about was doing it as a chaos type of build, scaling chaos damage and potentially poison damage. The nice thing about that would be that the poison would take out the stragglers that you leave behind sometimes. And I think you can scale the chaos fairly efficient, even with this setup here, if you were just to, of course, make a different skill tree, but almost the same type of gear, you could probably make that work, or add in a couple of Breath of the Council for some pretty significant damage boost here. I think that could be pretty cool. Maybe I'll try that next. We'll see. I'll upload the death tomorrow, so you can see how my character ripped. It was unfortunate, it happened a little too early, but shit happens. But I'll upload it probably tomorrow or the day after. Anyway, I've started a new character. It's a summon Skelly Mage Summoner, and we'll see if it turns out to be good. It's pretty fun so far. I've gotten to around level 60, and I'm looking forward to showing you guys some gameplay of that. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, subscribe to the YouTube channel here, but come visit me on Twitch too. I stream almost every day, and I'm probably streaming right now as this video is getting uploaded. You can find the link in the description. Thank you for watching, and bros, do you even nerd?